Snow fell in slow, silent flakes across the nearly empty town square, softening the world into a hush that felt too close to loneliness. People rushed past with shopping bags and bright scarves, laughter clouding into the air as warm as the lights twinkling above them, none of which reached her. On the cold stone bench beneath the largest Christmas tree, Mara's shoulders shook as tears slipped down her face, unnoticed by everyone except the sky. She hated crying in public, but on Christmas Eve, when the world was supposed to feel full, her silence felt heavier than ever. Mara pressed her palms against her face, trying to steady her breath. She had come to this square every year since she was a child, watching the choir sing beneath the glowing star. But tonight she could only see their animated mouths moving, their voices lost to her forever. In the 3 years since she had lost her hearing, she had learned to adapt, learned to smile through misunderstanding and loneliness, but she had never grown used to the aching emptiness of holidays. Tonight was supposed to be different. Her sister had promised to pick her up so she wouldn't spend Christmas Eve alone. She had waited for 2 hours in the biting cold before realizing that promise was just another one that wouldn't be kept. Her texts had been read and ignored. Again, she inhaled shakily and looked up at the golden lights shimmering overhead. This was the first Christmas she fully admitted. She had no one left who truly saw her. Then, from the blur of her tears, a pair of small boots stopped a few inches from her own. Mara blinked and looked up. A little girl stood there, no more than 6 or 7, her brown curls sticking out from under a knit hat decorated with tiny felt reindeer. Her mittened hands clutched a stuffed penguin to her chest, and concern curved her eyebrows. Behind her, a man hurried forward. He was tall, dark-haired, bundled in an old navy coat that looked warm and worn. His face was kind, if a little tired, the kind of tired that comes from loving more than you planned to. "I'm so sorry," he said gently, though his lips moved without sound. Mara read the shape of his apology. "I hope she's not bothering you." Before Mara could shake her head, the man turned to his daughter. If the resemblance didn't give it away, the protectiveness did. "Ellie, sweetheart, give the nice woman some space." But the girl wasn't paying attention to his words. Instead, she looked directly at Mara and signed, slowly but clearly, "Are you sad?" Mara's breath caught. She hadn't seen a stranger, let alone a child, sign to her in months. Not since she moved to this town, hoping for a fresh start that never quite came. The surprise must have shown in her face, because the man's eyes softened with understanding. He lifted his hands and signed, a little clumsily but with effort, "She saw you crying." She was worried. Mara's eyes widened. She looked at him, then at Ellie. "You sign?" she asked. He exhaled a bit sheepishly. His hands moved slower this time, fingers unsure. "Learning." She wanted to talk to a friend at school. "I'm trying to keep up." Ellie reached for Mara's hand, her little fingers curling softly around Mara's glove. She lifted the stuffed penguin in offering, as if that alone could fix whatever hurt she sensed. The innocence of it cracked something open inside Mara's chest. She shook her head, not to refuse, but because words had fled her entirely. The man crouched beside his daughter, glancing at Mara with worry he didn't try to hide. "Are you okay? Do you need help getting somewhere?" he asked, slowly enough for her to read clearly. Mara swallowed hard. After a long moment, she signed, "I'm fine. Just alone tonight." Ellie's face scrunched with confusion. She looked up at her father, tugging urgently at his sleeve. He leaned in close as she whispered. Then he looked back at Mara, uncertainty flickering across his features. "She wants to know." His lips moved slowly. "She wants to know if you want to come home with us." Mara stared. Ellie signed enthusiastically, as if to reinforce the invitation. "Come with us. Warm cookies, movie, please." A soundless laugh burst from Mara, half disbelief, half emotion. She shook her head lightly and signed back, "I don't want to intrude on your Christmas." The man straightened, brushing flakes from his coat. "It's just us," he said. "My parents are hours away, and it's been a rough year." Honestly, having another grown-up to talk to sounds kind of wonderful. He hesitated, then added, if you want to. Something in his eyes, warmth, sincerity, maybe his own quiet loneliness, made her pulse steady. She looked between him and his daughter. Ellie's hopeful little smile could have melted snow. Mara set her hand gently over Ellie's. Okay, she signed. I'd like that. The girl squealed without sound and threw her arms around Mara's waist. Mara froze, startled, then slowly hugged her back as warmth seeped into the cold cracks she'd been carrying. As they walked toward the parking lot, Mara noticed the man watching her with a soft expression. She pointed to her ear, signing, "You don't have to talk slow. I can read lips well." He smiled. "Thanks. I'm Aaron," he said, giving her time to catch the words. She signed her name, and his smile deepened. "Mara," he repeated aloud. "Beautiful." Her cheeks warmed in the winter air. In the car, Ellie insisted on sitting beside Mara, showing her drawings on the fogged window and signing every word she knew, even the messy ones she made up. Mara corrected her gently, which made Ellie beam with pride. The ride was short, but by the time they pulled into the driveway of a small but cozy-looking house, Mara realized her chest no longer ached the way it had earlier. Inside, the home glowed with soft lights and smelled faintly of cinnamon. A half-decorated Christmas tree leaned a little to the left, and the living room was scattered with toys, books, and the kind of clutter that only comes from love. Aaron set water to boil for hot chocolate while Ellie pulled out cookie dough from the fridge, store-bought, too cold, and slightly freezer-burned, which she presented like a treasure. Mara rolled up her sleeves and helped shape the dough, laughing silently as Ellie tried to make each cookie look like a different animal. Aaron kept glancing up from the stove, smiling whenever he caught Mara's eye. She felt seen, not because she made herself small or convenient, but because someone was truly looking. When the cookies came out lopsided and uneven, Ellie declared them perfect. They settled under a blanket for a Christmas movie. Mara sat at one end of the couch, Ellie curled tightly into her side, and Aaron on the other end, close enough for warmth to pass between them. Partway through the movie, as animated characters danced across the screen, Aaron whispered, "I hope this isn't too strange." Mara shook her head. "It's nice." He nodded, eyes fixed on her hands. "You're incredibly good at signing," he said. "I wish I were better. I want to help Ellie talk to her friend. And maybe talk to you. Properly." Her breath caught again. She smiled softly and signed, "You're better than you think." His laugh was quiet and warm. Ellie fell asleep before the movie ended, tiny fingers still wrapped around Mara's sleeve as if afraid she'd disappear. Aaron lifted his daughter gently and carried her to bed. When he returned, he rubbed the back of his neck, looking suddenly unsure. "Thank you," he said, "for staying. Tonight has been better than the last many." Mara's heart squeezed. "Me, too." They sat in silence for a moment, watching the lights from the tree blink slowly. Aaron's gaze moved to her face, soft and steady. "Can I ask, what brought you to the square alone tonight?" he said carefully. Mara looked down at her hands. She hesitated, then signed, "My sister forgot me. Again. We don't talk much. Since I lost my hearing. We speak different worlds." Aaron nodded slowly, not pitying her, not flinching away. "I'm sorry," he said simply. "That must feel incredibly lonely." She blinked back, the sting in her eyes. "It does. But tonight doesn't." He exhaled, a soft smile curving his lips. "Good." They talked long after midnight. About his work, his late wife, the struggles of single parenthood, Mara's love for drawing, the challenges of losing the world of sound and rebuilding something new. There were pauses, laughter, moments where words weren't needed, or where hands spoke instead. By the time exhaustion began to pull at him, Mara realized she hadn't thought about the cold bench, the empty square, or the unread messages for hours. She stood slowly, unsure whether she should go or offer thanks again or pretend this night didn't leave something glowing in her chest. But Aaron stepped closer and signed, carefully, deliberately, You don't have to be alone tomorrow. If you want, stay for Christmas morning. Ellie would love it. I would too. Mara felt warmth rise behind her ribs, something tender and terrifying. I'd love to, she signed. Aaron smiled, not the small polite smile he'd worn earlier, but something fuller. Something hopeful, and as she settled onto the couch with an extra blanket he brought, soft, warm, and smelling faintly of pine, Mara felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not sound, not the echo of what she once had, but belonging, soft, unexpected, and profoundly real. Snow continued falling outside the window, but inside the little house, warmth wrapped around her like a second skin. For the first time in a long time, Mara didn't fall asleep trying to silence her hurt. She fell asleep knowing someone had seen it, and stayed anyway.